Welcome, guys, in another interview because, as I said, I like them. And just I was making my best interview, and I was making the title. I said, "Okay, I really like this kind of type of conversation. I will call them. Do you know who you are?"
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting. Who did you interview last?
Do you remember Noah?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
last
yeah,
time.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay.
Okay, so without wasting times, who are you? When did you board? And kind of, if you can explain me your context, where you born and your family, kind of.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so my name is Elijah.
Yeah, I forgot completely. He is a really big friend of mine. We went
Yeah,
studying together,
yeah, linear
linear
algebra.
algebra,
Yeah,
and we started probably you tutoring me. Then it's a spoiler, but I
yeah,
will reach it.
yeah.
But you're a really great guy, man.
Oh,
So
I appreciate you. Yeah, but it's funny when people ask like who you are, you automatically think your name, but that's not like who you are.
Exactly.
But my name is Elijah. I was born like when I was born.
Yeah, where and
Um,
when?
I was born February 4th, 2003, in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Fun fact: anybody out there who knows who Rosa Parks is an American figure. I was born on the same day as her. Not different years, same day. Anyways,
Okay.
um, but I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which is not really country like a lot of other places in Louisiana, but still I feel like I know everybody in Baton Rouge, everybody that's worth knowing. So it's a very small world over there. And I just grew up just like a normal person in the country, just manners and everything like that.
Okay, and like, what does your parents do like for kind of living or as you kid? I wanna understand more kind of how you
Mhm.
got raised.
Yeah.
So kind of your parents, my opinion, influence you a lot.
Yeah. So I grew up. So number one, my parents are both retired now.
Okay.
So you can imagine how old they are now. So I grew up with some older school parents. I mostly grew up around my siblings who kind of co-raised me. My oldest sibling is 38 now, so she's getting up there. And my mom, I grew up around her mostly. She was worked for the state in a job for workers' compensation, and my dad worked, for a plant. And we've always the biggest hallmark of me growing up was just education. I've always just been in school and always been encouraged to learn and read and think critically. And a lot of my childhood was made up of just me trying different things. They put me in a lot of different things: baseball, soccer, or what other people call football. But I never threw footballs. I never wanted to do football. I did karate, gymnastics, and all these things. And then, of course, other intellectual things. But the way that I was brought up, it was mostly centered around growing to be an intellectual and a scientist, because everybody thought I was going to be a scientist when I grew up.
Why they told you that?
Because I was always asking questions, and I was always trying to answer those questions. And I always found a new thing to do. For example, I was very much into electricity and very curious about electricity as a kid, which could have ended me dying in a lot of situations, but
Bro, me too.
but I lived. I lived, and I had a lot of experiments that I was doing. I call them experiments because it was mostly me just saying, what would happen if I do this? A lot of times, a lot of sparks. The lights went out in the house one time. It was bad.
For sure. In my opinion, you have differential. You know what a differential is?
No.
It's basically saves your life
Yeah.
if you're touching the current, because for example if you're touching the positive, even though it would be the negative,
Yeah.
but if you're touching it and because the current goes through your body,
Yeah.
and let's say you let it go down, because if you have some shoes, maybe you don't you are not putting current, you're not closing the circuit,
Right.
but if you're closing it with something, then current pass through your body, and there's this differential that sees how much current it's coming in, it went out, so he must be balanced.
Right.
And so if it sees that there is like a lack of current after like 30 volts, something 35 volt, it's going to cut it off.
Okay.
So it's just like, but you can risk to stay attached to a current also, and
Interesting.
it's also really really dangerous, but at least it doesn't kill you.
Yeah, at least you don't die. Yeah.
No, don't die.
Well,
Some people could die because current, high voltage current's not good at all for our body.
Yeah, I would think. I would think so, probably. But it did continue from there, where I was always given new tools, and I used those to do new things. Like I was catching bugs and try to study what they were doing and how they were acting.
And how old you were when you were doing that?
Gosh, I was at least in like maybe, I want to say 3rd or 4th grade. I don't know what age that was, maybe 7-ish.
7-ish, and you were taking insects and dissect them, or like
you're gonna make me sound like a psycho.
No,
but in a sense, I wouldn't dissect them. I would more so catch them and just look at them and like observe like what, because you can't see how they look when they're flying around, but when you can catch them in a bottle and like look at them, you can see like, oh my gosh, they have this weird shining, glimmering on their wing, what is that? I never answered the question because I lost interest after that.
You should keep it up. Why they're shiny?
Yeah.
I'm curious.
But or why, you look at a fly up close, it's just like they look very nasty, up close.
Yeah.
But yeah, it just continued from there, and I'm grateful for my parents and for the way that I was brought up they were always encouraging the curiosity when it wasn't going to kill me.
So I can understand that you were really, how would you describe you as a kid? Like, what kind of kid you were?
I wouldn't say weird. I wasn't a weird kid. I was, I just didn't really fit in a lot, with other kids, because I had different things on my mind a lot of the times. Which I was like, it's not that I was better than people. I don't think I'm better than anybody, or I'm not, But it's like other kids were really into video games. I wasn't so much into video games, which is okay. People love video games. That's a really fun thing for people. But I was really interested in, building things, I was into robotics at one point, and I was, I wasn't ever really into math until later on in life, but I was really into biology and learning about cells and stuff like that. It was a constant thing of learning or creating. I was always creating and writing and trying to write books that I never finished.
And, yeah. At 7 years old?
Not at 7. At 7, I was not writing and writing books.
Okay.
It was like I guess as a kid, I'm kind of referencing to like elementary school and middle school. Middle school was my period of time where I was like really becoming more of a writer, writing like poetry and short stories and stuff like that. But when I was in elementary school, everybody told me I was going to be a scientist, so I just played that role of, I need to, really become a scientist.
Okay.
So I was really into anything science related.
And I'm so interesting. I would like maybe if you can reason about it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think this curiosity interesting about like making building up something, play with currents,
Mm-hmm.
all this kind of stuff. Because if I'm thinking, okay, that's not normal, maybe for
Mm-hmm.
like a kid of that age,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm so interested to kind of know
Mm-hmm.
why do you think you were doing that stuff.
I think it's simply like the fact that I was given access to it and I was encouraged to do it. I don't know if it was something like innate or natural for me. Like I don't know if I was just going to do it anyways if I wasn't given the resources. But I do know that since the resources were there, and I had the encouragement of my community, it just so happened to foster that development of wanting to be a scientist, you know.
Okay.
And I would just always, the things that I did do with technology was always like things that allowed me to experiment more. Like I was really into sandbox games. The only video game I really did play was Minecraft, but that's mostly because I really, really liked how you could create your own little world and really discover new things with Minecraft and play around with different mechanisms. Redstone was really interesting to me because you can make so many different interesting machines with
Yeah.
it, and that was my first introduction into actual like machines and automata that like can follow steps after you've given
Mhm.
it a structured it,
Yeah, that's great. In fact, like Minecraft could was giving to you like, okay, I can do whatever I want
yeah
in this world.
Yeah.
But your parents were kind of, did they get mad when they figure out that you were playing with current or like doing all this kind of stuff?
Yeah. So when I was playing around with some things, and I forgot what I was doing. I was trying to. So it was around the time where I was trying to figure out how people pick locks. And so I was trying to like pick locks with because I saw it on TV with like little like apparatuses like paper clips or whatever that I could get to try to pick a lock. And then at the same time, I was thinking, okay, how does the electricity in the light switch work or whatever? And something in my mind said, what would happen if I just stuck this into a light switch? I stuck a paper clip into the light switch just to see like what would happen. And sparks started coming out. And then the lights went out. I was like, yikes.
That's cool.
I was like, well, whatever, happens. It happens through the light switch. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so amazing that you were doing that. And then you said like your community. What do you mean what's that for you?
Oh, this is like not only my parents but my siblings and my sister. My sister, she's way older than me.
Mm-hmm.
She's like 38 now.
Okay.
And she got her degree in engineering. And so she had all the knowledge that she needed to teach me things that I wanted to know. So when I was curious about, okay, what is algebra? She taught me algebra.
At 7 years old.
Not at 7 years old. Well, let's see. It wasn't elementary school. It wasn't elementary school. So I don't know what age, but it was sometime in elementary school where I was like, what's algebra? And she kind of taught me some basic things. And my brother, who's, again, older than me, he's like 36 now. He was a computer scientist, and he was always fixing computers and working with computers, and he was also a musician, so he had all the instruments and everything. And so it's just, by community, I mean, my entire family just either had something encouraging to say about the things that I did, or they just simply had the tools there that I needed to explore.
Okay. And did your siblings help you out making some experimental kind of stuff?
So they never really helped me out with making the things that I came up with. I just snuck into the kitchen and tried out, or snuck into my room and tried out. But if it was anything that I was curious about, like learning how to play the trumpet or learning how to play piano or learning algebra, and I knew I needed to go to them, I would go to them and they would sit there and help me and kind of entertain it, even though they knew I wasn't going to completely get,
You still go.
even though they knew I wasn't going to completely get algebra, just from the first time looking at it in elementary school, like it's useless.
But maybe not useless, because then, you recognize something that you already seen. It's like,
Yeah.
if you already seen something, your brain then start remember stuff that you were doing.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the case that happened when I started middle school. Okay, but when I started middle school, I did not like math anymore for some reason. I just started to hate math.
So you were liking it.
In elementary school, I loved math.
Yeah, and then what happened?
And I don't know what happened, because in elementary school, I loved math, and I would see my sisters and my brothers' old math textbooks from when they were in college and try to sit there and look at them and decipher what's happening. I could never, because it was foreign to me at the time, And then I got into middle school, and I don't know what exactly happened. Maybe it was a teacher that I just did not click with. But I do know, as soon as I was in 6th grade, I was just like, I do not want to do algebra. I'm done with this. I'm done with math. And I went to the route of being a musician.
All right. And before, like, the middle school, elementary, or like kindergarten, what kind of kid you were? Like, how can you describe that kid? Like, did you had a lot of friends, or like?
Yeah, I made friends easily, and I played with the other kids and things like that. One story that I think is definitive of who I was as a like little tiny thing, like 2 years old, maybe 1 year old, 2 years old, comes from my mom. She said that I was never a fussy kid. Like, I never cried, and I only ever like maybe cried a little when I just needed some food or I needed to be changed. But it was never like just for anything in the world. No, I was never a crier. But but I always was just sitting there and just watching people. And then eventually, when I got old enough to walk around, or crawl around, I was a very social kid, but still like always messing around with things I wasn't supposed to mess around with. And one story is there was this old grandfather clock we had, keyword had, and I was apparently crawling around and always, crawling around it. And one time I was left alone for like 2 seconds, and they hear a big boom in the kitchen. Just keep in mind, this is when I'm still crawling. And they come around and they're like, what happened? And they see the grandfather clock on the floor, broken, and me right next to it. And apparently I knocked the thing down and broke it, and they were just very glad that I wasn't crushed by it. But that was me as a kid. I was always messing with something I wasn't supposed to, and that just continued on through the rest of my life.
Okay. And when you were a kid, like, what was the relationship with your parents, with your dad, your mom? Like, you were close, or like?
We were. My dad worked a lot, so we were super close. But I would not say like as close as me and my mom were, because me and my mom had always. It was like she took care of me the most. But me and my dad, were really close also, and he was the one that really, like, she was the nurturer. She was the one that was like taking care of you, pick your clothes out in the morning, make the breakfast, blase. But my dad, he was like an educator. He was the one who was like, I would on the car rides, on what do they call them when you go on long car rides, road trips. On like road trips to any place, we'd be doing vocabulary games, spelling games, math games. He's the one who helped me with my math homework or any science homework, anything. And so he was always another person I would go to when I was interested in or curious about something. So that was our relationship.
Okay. And do you think now that you got loved from them on that time?
Yeah. I think looking back on it, you always like in the moment you're like, oh my gosh, my parents hate me because they don't want you to do this or they don't want you to have that. And it's more like no, they really do care for you, and you don't need that. All right,
Yeah,
like for
yeah.
example, they don't hate you because they won't let you stick a fork in the in the plug. You shouldn't be doing that.
Even though I was thinking of about that, maybe you could get something, but if you're not pulling down the current,
Yeah.
the shell goes from from a point to the others,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
touching you, kind of.
Yeah.
If you're not putting down, if you're
Yeah.
putting down the current, you'll be kind of.
You'll be yeah. I had not learned anything
Okay.
about electricity.
You have to focus on we're testing out.
What?
No, just.
No. I by that time, trust me, back then I was not learning. I was not making any new theories. I was just simply like, I have a question, I'm gonna answer it. Well, try my best to answer it, and then that's it.
So, do you think that comes as your mind was built up? I have a question, I want to find an answer.
Yeah, I think also I watched a lot of Sid the Science Kid. If you probably have never watched PBS, but PBS is public broadcasting something. But they had this. It's a public like broadcasting like company or organization where it's just open access, or like not open access, but free for everybody, whatever. They had this thing called PBS Kids, where they had these shows that shows about superheroes that could teach you how to spell or whatever, or something about words or whatever. And they had this other show called Sid the Science Kid, and Sid the Science Kid was this show about a kid who always had these questions, and he'd ask a question, and the whole episode was him trying to figure it out. And so then maybe he had a question about what's a roly-poly or whatever. You know what a roly-poly is? Those kind of, I don't want to say worms, but worm-like creatures or centipede-like creatures that you touch them, or like you mess with them, they roll up in a ball.
Okay.
That's what we call them over here, roly-polies. Or like, what's the sun, or things or something like that. And he would go through this whole quest in this episode to figure it out. So I kind of wanted to be that kid.
Okay, I see it. All right, then obviously, so what kind of school did you do? Because it was interesting that you told me that here in America you can choose like from Christianity school that they're teaching Easter in a way, and then more like scientific approach or evolutionary. So, in which school your parents sign you up?
So this is a specific. I can only speak about Louisiana.
Okay.
But so like in Louisiana, at least, there's like there's public schools and there's private schools. Private schools tend to be Christian.
Okay.
Some form of Christian, Catholic, or whatever. All the private schools I'm familiar with are Catholic. And at those private schools, they will teach you like Christianity or creationism and things like that. Some of them may not go into depth about how creationism is not the best answer for how humans have come about. But what the school I went to was called a public school, and in public schools we were required to have what is called a I forgot. It's a liberal education.
Oh, right.
Not liberal in the sense of like politically liberal, but liberal in the sense of it's encompassing everything. It's encompassing as much as possible. So we learned a little bit about creationism, but really it was mostly focused on science. So the school that I went to was really heavily science-based. Well, in elementary school, I lived in a Christian area, so everybody was still Christian in elementary school, even though they were not supposed to be teaching Christianity. We got it anyways in elementary school because everybody in the area was Christian. But when I moved on to middle school, it really was a heavy focus on science and purely science.
And are your parents like Christians, or they believe in any religion?
No. They're not Christians. They are. I would really recognize them as agnostic.
Okay.
And maybe my mom is Christian leaning, but never like fully on Christian. And that's just my parents. My siblings, completely different story.
Okay. But your sibling, you have just one sister and one brother?
I have two sisters and had two brothers. One of my brothers passed, but
Oh,
that was a while back.
all right. And yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Oh, no, it's fine.
How old you were?
That was a year ago, so maybe like 21. Yeah, 21. Yeah.
You said like it was something not so close or whatever.
Yeah.
It just 1 year ago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was it feels longer than it actually has been. I guess since you just kind of you take time and then it just time passes, you know. When it came to 1 year and like my cousin called me, I was like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" I didn't even realize it was a year. I was like, "What are you talking about? Feeling about what?"
Okay.
And then he told me, I was like, "Oh yeah." So
All right. And so you were saying it was how old he was.
when he passed,
Yeah.
36, I
Okay.
believe 36. Yeah.
So you were saying your sister 38 now.
Mm-hmm.
So then another sister older than her.
Or no, younger than me.
Yeah.
So I have a 38-year-old sister, and then a now 20-year-old sister. She just turned 20.
Okay.
I'm 22,
Okay. And you have another brother.
and my other brother, he's 37 right now.
All right.
Yeah.
I see. So you're a big family.
Yeah, a huge family.
I see. And all right. So then you said that you started playing
Mhm.
your brother instrument,
hmm
and what happened after that?
That's when I really got into music. So then I wanted to start writing music, and I did.
Oh, in the past.
In the
Yeah.
past, yeah. So this was back in middle school, and I was really starting to get into playing piano and singing, and I tried to play the trumpet, but I could never take the trumpet seriously enough, like at all. But I just started playing around. I was never the type. I'm not the type. I was never the type to read, and by that I mean like I never read the instructions or never wanted to like learn from somebody else. I wanted to figure it out myself.
Okay.
Mostly because I was lazy. I didn't want to like
stay
go through the
there,
lessons,
really,
right?
yeah.
I was like, let me just get my hands on it and just go,
Yeah.
you know. So it did take me a long time to learn anything because you can't just hop into it, just figure it out
Yeah,
from scratch.
exactly.
But by the end of middle school, I was like, playing a little bit of piano and singing and writing music, and that set me up for like high school where I was like composing music, and that became a whole section of my life where I was not even into science anymore. It was just music for me.
Okay. And did you publish that?
I never really did.
But you still have that?
I still have all of my like sheet music.
And you record that?
I've recorded some of it. And I've had some of it like performed or tried to get it performed, but I was never I needed time to really develop as a writer because my work was, while it sounded good, was not practical. It's just that like you could write a piano piece that sounds beautiful,
Mhm.
in theory, if you were to get like a computer to play it, because they have those programs that
Mhm.
a computer can play it for you. But if a person were to try to play that, it would be impossible for them to play it, and that's the problem I ran into.
Okay, I see.
Yeah, and that is the same thing for like singing. It's like I realized that the things that I could sing is probably not the things that everybody else could sing, and you have to make your music accessible for the audience you're trying to get to sing it.
Mhm.
I
I see.
eventually learned.
Yeah. It's a process, like you said, you get your hand dirty and then you realize, oh, that's not working like this.
Yeah. It really like hit me when I brought my music to my choir director, and I was like, I have this music, I have this I don't want to call it a remix. It was like a rewriting. I forgot the terminology, but
Mhm.
I kind of redid this song called Misty.
Okay.
And I brought it to her. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. We should sing this. And then she looked at it. She's like, I love it. It looks beautiful, sounds beautiful on piano, but I don't think we can sing it because it's just so complicated. I was like, what do you mean? She's like, this is something that a college choir would be able to do, but a high school choir just cannot, do these complicated, changes in key that you're proposing here. And I was like, but why can't we try?
Now I want to listen to it. I'm so curious.
That's what I had gotten good. By high school, I was like really into the music theory, and I had taken AP music theory and really dug deeper into it. But I eventually, I think if I were to not throw it away for the rest of my life, like throw away all the music and stuff like that, I probably would have gotten even better, and maybe I would have been a choir or like a composer today, but maybe.
Yeah, so it's so interesting then that so you got your science on a side,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start completely doing music.
Yeah.
And did you do any sports on that time, or like?
Oh,
not
yeah.
at all? Like you were doing something, but not with the same attitude
Fervor,
that
yeah,
you
no.
were doing.
Yeah, music was the first and foremost and only thing I was interested in at the time, even though I was in high school doing gymnastics. And that was like my side kind of passion, because it was one of the first things that I was just really, that I completed. Because I never was a completing type of person. Like, I never took a project from beginning to end and completed it.
All right.
Because I just lost interest a lot of the times. But gymnastics was one of those things that I felt like I can take something, I can really work towards it and complete it. Like learning a new skill in gymnastics, I can go from I don't know anything to doing the progressions to all of a sudden now I'm doing a triple back tuck. It's like that felt good to me.
Okay. And you did that all by your own, like your parents were pushing you?
Oh, I see what you mean. My parents didn't want me to do gymnastics. They thought I was going to die, which I didn't die, of course.
Why they were thinking that?
Well, because, if you're doing gymnastics, you're doing like flips and things like that. You can land on your neck.
Okay. It's the one that you're doing on the rings or something like that?
Oh, pretty much any of them. They have the floor where you're doing
on the bar.
The bar, on the rings, on the floor, not the pommel horse so much, which is the thing that they kind of spin around.
Okay.
But anything where your like body is going upside down or you're going up in the air, you probably can land on your neck.
Yeah.
And that's not good because you either can die or be paralyzed. And we had to sign that form every year to say if I am paralyzed or if I die, I will not sue the school. So
now, so you had to sign that.
Yeah, well, my parent had to sign it because I could not go into a contract. I was below 18, but my parent had to sign it. And so, yeah, my mom every year would be like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, I'm double sure I want to do this. Like, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to be paralyzed. And it never happened. I've landed on my neck a couple of times, but I was never paralyzed.
Oh, that's so. Are you still able to do that? You're still doing that, or you stopped?
I've stopped, but if I were to work towards it, I could get back to it probably.
Oh my God.
If I were to work.
Yeah.
But I stopped when I dislocated my elbow. And that's when I was like, okay, that's enough.
Okay, what happened? Like you landed?
Yeah, so I was hard-headed. I was stubborn, and I really wanted to get this dismount because I wanted to be able to beat. Because the different skills go by points, and you're capped off at the amount of points you could get based on the amount of skills in your routine. So I wanted a new skill that was worth more points, so I could at least compete with some people and actually, get higher rankings.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I need to get this new dismount so I can have a higher points. Well, I kept on practicing the dismount, and sometimes I landed it, sometimes I didn't land it. And I wanted a consistent stick to landing. So I was gonna do it one more time, and my coach said, no, don't do it anymore. Just relax, no more. And I said, can I just do one more? Just one more? He was like, fine, just do one more. I did that one last dismount, and I did my like the back tuck off of the parallel bars, and I landed on my arm in a weird way to where my whole arm just dislocated, and it was the end. I couldn't compete. I couldn't compete. That was a learning point.
I'm so sorry. I don't know. Maybe you shall keep it back.
Maybe I can get it. I mean, I'm 100% healed now. A little
So
bit.
after that, you never done it
I
again?
never did it again.
How old you were?
Maybe 18 or 17 or 18.
Okay. And who got you, or like, who got you in gymnastics?
I got myself in there. I think so. When I started high school,
Mm-hmm.
they had just a really, like, one of the better schools in Baton Rouge. I would say the best school in Baton Rouge, and they had so many cool things there because they had so much funding. They had all the different instruments and all the different practice rooms and things like that. And they also had a whole gymnastics, gym
Mm-hmm.
at the school. And so when I saw that I had the option to do gymnastics, I was like, well, hell yeah, I'm gonna do gymnastics. And I could do that instead of PE, So I just really wanted to do that, and my mom was horrified, but I said I have to. I mean, you only live once, this is my only chance.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
That's so good. And there's so much. Never mind. And what was the most difficult thing when you were back doing it? Maybe you still figure out. Also, I'm curious, when you were doing piano, when you were doing all this kind of stuff, what was kind of the biggest struggle you got and you had to go over it?
Just in general? Oh, I'd say growing up, possibly it was high school. High school is my biggest struggle, and that was more so like just finding my place as a musician in high school. In high school, music was very competitive. I was in a very competitive atmosphere. We always had to place. We did these statewide competitions, and we always had to place at the top, positions in the state. Because that was what was expected of us from our choir teacher. So I was always trying to compete not only with the state on a state level, but compete with my peers. And I would always compare myself, like, oh, they got second in the state and I got third, or maybe I didn't make state this year and I only made the district, and things like that. And it's just the constant struggle of I have to make my voice better. I have to preserve it. I have to, become more skilled at my sight reading. And all of this came in the middle of me also trying to be a better writer, which was a struggle because I felt like nobody ever really cared that I wrote music, which I guess justifiably because it was really bad music at the time. But I felt like I was fighting an uphill battle a lot of times with music, which was a new thing for me. Science came like really easy, but music was like a constant uphill battle, fighting for this thing that I love so much.
Okay. And did you ever regret something that you did in the past that now you're thinking, okay, I shouldn't have done that, or like I wish or something. I wish I could do something different.
Yeah, I think I regret doing computer science.
In high school. In college.
In college, yeah. Well, I think I maybe would have gone for something engineering related, or possibly even physics. I don't know. Math, yeah.
Also?
Yeah, maybe math. I mean, I love computer science, and computer science is basically, I just had this conversation today, it's basically just math, But I just don't know. I feel like I kind of cornered myself into something like where there's something super not really specialized, because I can I do a lot of cool things with computer science now. I'm in an evolutionary biology lab. I'm in doing other things, but I think I just came in with no knowledge whatsoever, no backing in it. So I kind of just came in from scratch into the degree where a lot of people had a lot of things already, and it kind of, I still feel like I'm so behind everybody else. You know, I'm about to graduate, and I just feel like even though I have all the knowledge I am supposed to have as an undergrad, I feel like I'm so behind everyone else because there's so much more to still know, you know, and it's so big. It's such a big field.
Yeah. Okay, so you would change it, but maybe you can go in a master that maybe really you want. Like what I was saying, a computer science degree and an engineering degree in my university in Italy, they're kind of the same. There are a couple courses that are different, but overall, you almost done all courses like Calc2, physics. Have you done physics?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. So I think you still can do whatever you want.
Yeah. I think I still can do all of that. I think I would have done computer engineering if I were to do anything.
Okay.
Because I think I've gotten a lot of theoretical, high-level knowledge, but nothing really down to the practical, how do we, like, hardware stuff, you know? But at the same time, that's where I like to be, is the high-level theoretical stuff, you know? But I'm because of my curiosity gets the best of me, is I also want to know all of that stuff down there.
Okay.
But I do feel like I don't completely regret it, you know? I don't completely regret it. I just feel like in computer science these days, they only want you to do a lot of practical stuff. Like, for example, like a lot of researchers that I know really aren't theorists in computer science. They're really like practical. They're creating new practical tools people can use in the industry, rather than really thinking like how Alan Turing was thinking. You know Alan Turing? Yeah. There's no Alan Turings, or not a lot of Alan Turings anymore. There's a lot of just people they're trying to make something practical and useful for somebody immediately.
Yeah, that's so interesting and so true. How was high school for you? Like, did you went to a really good time in high school, or like how was in your opinion?
High school was a time. It was interesting to say the least. It was. I didn't really have many problems. The biggest problems I had was in choir, was that whole journey of trying to figure out how do I become a better musician, and that was bigger than maybe it should have been, you know. Maybe I over dramatized it back then, but it was a lot. I tried to fit in with my peers in music, and I never really fit in because I was again never that good. But I still enjoyed it, so I kept going. And I just tried but I also had a like unrelenting will. I was never going to let anybody tell me what to do and what they thought I should do. So if they said, "Oh, you should be a tenor," and I really wanted to be a bass, I was going to be a bass. Nobody was going to tell me anything different. Or you shouldn't do that song. You should do this song. I was not going to hear that. I was going to do whatever song I wanted to do, which is probably to my detriment because I did not make a lot of friends doing that. But you know, I still made a considerable amount of friends who, you know, really appreciated who I was.
And where did you get all your knowledge that you were studying all this kind of stuff? Where you got that? Like you search on internet, or back there where you were getting, or still now?
Now more so the internet. Now more so the internet. Back then, I guess it's always the internet. I guess it was always the internet. Because I just spent a lot of time on the internet. I was into origami, and I learned origami from the internet. You know, I was into music. I learned music from the internet. So I think it's just pretty much just me being curious and just searching things up on Google, and just piecing things together as I go. if I wanted to learn. I wasn't really into making languages. I think mostly because I didn't want people to know what I was saying about them. So, like, if I were like to write something down and people like see, oh, they're talking about me, I didn't want that to happen. So I wanted to make my own language so nobody could decipher it. But then I just stopped because I was like, this is actually very complicated. It's harder.
So like, it blows my mind that you wanted to have your own language.
I was the closest.
Can you
thing,
speak something in your own language? Like,
Oh,
do you remember?
I don't
something?
remember any of that. Oh my gosh. I don't even remember some of the codes I made because I realized I couldn't make my own language because that involved making a whole vocabulary. That's a lot.
Mhm.
But I could make my own code, and like I could like a Caesar cipher of some sort, or you know how like Enigma worked, like something to
that only
encrypt.
you have to encrypt.
Something
right.
to encrypt the message, you know. And so I was really good at coming up with those, and I don't even remember those systems. I'd have to look back in my old notebooks to see what I was doing.
That's crazy. And why you were thinking, okay, I need my own language?
Mhm.
You kind of said it, but do you think there is something more deep under that?
Yeah, well, I was not always, but I was interested in language at a point in my life where I was realizing this was around the time I was learning Spanish, and I was in Spanish class in middle school, you know, and I was realizing there's some similarities and differences, some like relationships between languages, and these relationships were interesting to me. Like the relationship between Spanish and English was an interesting relationship to me. But I always wanted to I saw how other people like were speaking foreign languages and things like that. That always fascinated me. And I guess I was just very interested in how a language should be formed in order for people to understand what you're saying, in order for you to convey ideas. And so I just was tried to create my own languages. I think it was mostly, though, the fact that I didn't want people to know what I was saying, because I felt like I can't learn Spanish because people speak Spanish. I can't learn, Mandarin because people speak Mandarin. I can't learn Japanese because people speak Japanese. Any other language that I try to learn to conceal what I'm saying, somebody speaks it, so I have to make something nobody else speaks but me.
Yeah, so that's kind of turning the point. Why you didn't want other people to understand what you were saying?
I think I was just I'm the same way now today. I don't like people seeing my ideas because I feel like people will judge them, and I like to be able to think about them in my head and have nobody, and like just stay up here.
Okay.
So but I also wanted to write things down. So like if I were to write things down, I wanted to be able to write freely. And that's a big thing to me. It's like the freedom of thought, really. Mm-hmm. Not so much freedom of speech, but freedom of thought.
Yeah.
And if I can write freely, I can think freely. And therefore, I can just, if somebody were to pick up the book of like whatever I'm writing, they can never tell that I'm writing about, anything, like, I don't know, writing about how I dissected insects. I never dissected insects, but
there's nothing wrong with doing that.
But if I could, conceal that, then I can think as freely as I would like to and never have to worry about, what would people think if I were to think this,
Yeah, but here it's kind of because you're maybe scared of what other people think about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And how do you feel on that point? Because I was really, really under a rock.
Yeah.
Of that, it was pushing my head, and I was subconsciously thinking about that, and then I was like, there's no point.
Yeah.
And how you feel?
And I'm getting to that point. Of now that I am like doing like research and trying to publish research, that still comes back to me where it's like I'm writing about these findings that I've had in my research, and then I'm going to publish it. I'm going to send it to an editor or a publisher.
All right.
And who am I to say anything about this data? Who am I to, like, if I were to say, oh, this is what the data, must say or whatever. And then a researcher comes to me and says, oh, well, that's stupid. Then that hurts. Yeah. But I have to learn that, well, that's not a personal attack on my intelligence. It's more so just, they don't like the idea. And I don't have to personally be attached to ideas.
Yeah, but there will be everything you will do. There will be somebody that tells you, oh, you should do that, and but they never done it.
Yeah.
So my advice is go for it, publish it, and also your thoughts, in my opinion, write it that people can understand what you're saying, can understand your beliefs, and kind of. If you find people that will hate you, there will always be people that will hate you. But on the other hand, there are people that will love you as you are, and take all the good stuff. And so why not? On the other hand, and also, it's kind of sadly to say, but nobody cares about us, it's only ourselves, because of people at the end of the day, they're going to think with their self in their bed. They're not thinking about what you did or what you will do.
Yeah.
So you really shall go for it and tell me. So after that, there is like something of your ideas that you would like to tell me.
Of my ideas back then?
Or even now, something that you might scared.
Oh gosh. Oof. There's a lot of things. I don't know if we live in a simulation or not. It seems like a dumb question, but
no. Why you're saying that, brother? Why you're saying that? There's like, it's so interesting, and probably we shall talk about that another time. But it's kind of sad. Whenever will be another time.
Yeah, and it's not an original idea. It's just the more that I learn about computers, the more that I think about.
We can do that again. We can emulate that.
Yeah, it is really, it's just sometimes, and I don't know if that's because I am like a computer scientist and that I've spent so much time in computers that I just have this bias. But sometimes the more that I study computers, the more I feel like computation is like the foundation of the universe, or of the mathematical structure of the universe. Which makes sense on a basic level, because everybody's like, oh, the structure or the order of the universe is mathematics, but computation is, in essence, just mathematics,
Mm-hmm.
And the more that I think about it, the more that I study it, the more I'm like, geez, there's some questions you can ask in computer science that can really send you into some spirals. Some, I don't want to call them pessimistic, or like some really existential spirals.
All right.
And so like those things I'm starting to write down. I'm writing them down in English so people could read them.
Yeah, thank you.
But back then, back when I was a kid, I'd probably have written them down in some code, so nobody could read it, so nobody could look at it like, what is this kid talking about? But I was not thinking about this.
Somebody, in my opinion, will take that, and try to translate and understand who you are. I'll see it. I'm scared about you because, man, you can beat of anybody. Really. I wish you the best. And there is anything that you would like to tell me that we haven't touched it?
I don't know. I feel like I've put it all out there. There's a lot of great questions because I never really think about my life like that. Not really. Just, I don't know. I say. One thing that you should know is that I guess I'm just, I don't know. I feel like I'm just I'm not a genius. Like, do not take anything I say as like, oh, I'm such a genius. I'm like Einstein. I'm like, no.
No, obviously.
I feel like anybody could ask questions,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And are you happy now?
Yeah, I'm definitely happy now. Oh, yeah.
No, not happy now, but are you happy with that now, in general?
like with like in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm happy. I feel like if I can keep thinking, I was just thinking about earlier, like if I could just like, if the government could give me a lab and infinite money, I would be happy for the rest of my life.
Damn.
But it won't happen, so it's okay.
You never know.
You never know.
It's in your mind, brother.
Yeah,
It's in your
yeah.
mind. I'll see you like
Yeah.
dissecting aliens
Yeah.
whatever in the Area 51.
Right. Yeah. But yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Elia,
Thank you.
for let you interview
Yeah.
for me. I really love it, and I wish you the best for everything.
Thank you.
And it's kind of sad that in 2 weeks I won't see you again.
Oh, no, don't worry. I'll be in Italy sometime, so
Okay.
it's cool.
you come, please.
Yeah.
I'll
be
host
there.
you.
Yes, of course.
And
Yeah.
thank you again.
All right. Ooh.
I had a really great time.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right.
See you.
See you.
Bye. Bye.